Some wounds you can see. Others are quiet, hidden beneath layers of smiles, daily routines, and the gentle hum of life. These invisible wounds settle in your mind like faint shadows, coloring how you think, feel, and move through the world. They are the kind of wounds that linger because they touch something elemental within you. Your sense of self, your trust in others, your belief that love or safety is possible. Healing them isn't about erasing pain. It's about learning to hold it with kindness and curiosity. One of the longest-lasting wounds comes from rejection that leaves you questioning your worth. It might be a parent who didn't notice your small triumphs, a teacher who dismissed your ideas, or a friend who left without explanation. Rejection isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, telling you you're not enough, that your voice doesn't matter. And in response, you might shrink, adjusting who you are to fit the spaces others leave for you. Psychology tells us that repeated rejection can embed deep patterns of self-doubt, but gently noticing the moments you still feel worthy. Small, quiet validations like your breath, your persistence, your curiosity, is where recovery begins. Another slow-to-heal wound is betrayal that shatters trust. Imagine leaning on someone, letting them see the tender threads of your soul, only for them to turn away or hurt you. Your brain remembers this betrayal vividly, not as an abstract lesson, but as a felt experience in your nervous system. Oxytocin, the trust hormone, clashes with cortisol, the stress hormone, leaving your heart unsure who is safe. Healing here is not a sprint. It's about learning to differentiate between past betrayals and present realities, and sometimes it's simply noticing that some people can be safe, even if others are not. Then there's the quiet ache of loss that lingers in the empty spaces of routine. Grief is not only the sudden collapse after a death or breakup. It is the daily noticing of what is no longer there. The empty chair at the dinner table. The silence in a room once filled with laughter. Psychologists call this anticipatory grief or prolonged grief when it stretches across months and years. What helps is gentle permission to feel, to remember, to let yourself be undone momentarily, to honor what was, and in those small acts, to slowly weave your life back together. A subtler, yet profoundly deep wound is emotional neglect that teaches self-doubt. It might be growing up in a home where feelings were ignored or invalidated, or in a relationship where your needs went unnoticed. Over time, your inner voice mimics the neglect, telling you that your emotions are inconvenient or wrong. Cognitive science suggests that this becomes a learned pattern. Your brain assumes your feelings are untrustworthy. Healing begins when you start naming your emotions, treating them as valuable data about your inner world, and allowing yourself to respond to them as a compassionate observer, not a critic. Then, there's the kind of wound that comes from persistent fear of abandonment. Perhaps early separation, inconsistent caregivers, or friendships that fell apart too soon seeded the anxiety that people will leave. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, becomes hypervigilant, scanning for signs of rejection or loss. This makes you cling, retreat, or self-sabotage in subtle ways. Psychology offers insight. Attachment theory shows that understanding your patterns doesn't excuse them, but it illuminates them. Recognizing triggers, noticing bodily tension when fear arises, and practicing self-soothing exercises slowly teach your system that presence and love can be reliable. Lastly, a wound that is often invisible even to us is shame that hides behind perfection. Perfectionism isn't just a desire to excel. It is often a shield for a deep, persistent belief that who you are is unacceptable. Your brain equates mistakes with danger, replaying critical inner voices over and over. Social psychology reminds us that this is a survival mechanism, one learned in a world that felt unsafe or judgmental. Healing comes from daring to be imperfect, noticing when shame speaks, and replacing it with gentle curiosity. Every time you choose to act despite shame, you weaken its grip and build resilience in its place. These wounds are not failures. They are evidence of being human. They exist because you care, because you notice, because you feel deeply. Healing them takes time, patience, and sometimes guidance, but each small act of awareness, breathing through discomfort, journaling your feelings, reaching for safe connection, is a thread in the tapestry of recovery. Psychology offers the tools: understanding patterns, learning emotional regulation, and practicing self-compassion. But more importantly, your own lived experience, your capacity to notice, to hold, and to gently question your mind, is what transforms pain into wisdom. And so, perhaps the most important understanding is that healing is not linear. These emotional wounds don't vanish with one realization or a single act of bravery. They soften gradually, like sunlight filtering through clouds, like the gentle erosion of waves shaping a rock over years. And in that process you learn something profound, that your mind is not an enemy, but a garden, sometimes overgrown, sometimes scorched, but always capable of new growth. So if you notice these patterns in yourself, let them be met with kindness rather than judgment. Let them be seen, acknowledged, and held as part of your story. Let them teach you about your resilience, your depth, and your capacity for tenderness, for yourself and for others. Healing is not forgetting. It is remembering differently, noticing differently, and loving differently. And in that gentle recalibration, your mind slowly, subtly, beautifully finds its way back to safety, curiosity, and light.